A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I want A+ English because it's so much fun. English education for you and everyone, so come along. Learn some grammar, learn a phrase, learn something new every day. Learn the A+ way. Hey, it's time to start the show. Are you ready? Good, 'cause here we go. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I want A+ English.
Hello, and welcome to A+ English. I'm Seb.
And I'm Laura, and I'm dancing. Can you tell?
I cannot actually, because I can't see you on my screen right now, but I will take your word for it. You really love to dance, don't you, Laura? Like, I always see you moving around.
Okay.
You're very energetic.
I know, I'm very energetic, but I have a confession to make. 其实我是跳舞白痴. I can't dance at all. 其实我真的不太会跳舞, but I don't care because, it's just for fun. When you listen to music, you just want to dance to music, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Naturally.
You just want to have fun, move around, enjoy yourself, right? It's not, you don't have to do like ballet.
Right.
You don't need to be spinning on your toes. But I'm surprised to hear that you have 2 left feet, to hear that
I know, 对呀，我真的笨手笨脚的耶。
So that brings us, I feel like I know the answer to your warm-up question now, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Do you dance? What do you like about dancing?
OK, 我有没有跳舞？然后我喜欢跳舞的什么呢？我当然是有跳舞，因为 when I go to parties, there are always like good music, and then I actually feel like dancing. 如果听到好的音乐，我当然就会不自觉身体就会想要来一个动作 like a dancing. But what I like about dancing is that I feel like I've actually learned dancing before. Like sexy dance.
Really?
You probably don't know
Sexy
this.
dance.
对，真的 because I was trying to like kind of like get good postures, and it's actually pretty healthy. Like to if you make it into like kind of like an exercise, you do it pretty often. 其实跳舞是还蛮就是有益健康 and
it can really train your body, like really help you lose weight and stay
and
very
posture
fit
and everything, and also it is very good for de-stressing like purposes. 我真的觉得它很舒压 so it makes you happy.
Yes, dance can help us do lots of things. It can help us de-stress, it can help us express ourselves, and it can create some very nice spaces for us. If we feel that we're left outside in society. And we're actually going to talk about a dance which has helped people do that. First in the United States and then all around the world. It's called voguing. And I don't want to say any more. Let's just get started with today's article.
Vogue. More than a magazine, more than a dance. Warm-up question. Do you dance? What do you like about dancing?
1001, 2002, 3003. Now hold that pose for me. The music stops. A dancer is lying on the floor in a beautiful pose. Their right leg points into the air. Their back curves and their head looks back. This is voguing. Vogue is a famous dance from New York City's Black and Latino LGBTQ culture. Voguing started in the 1960s and 1970s. Dancers did poses from Vogue magazine to music. They even held balls to find the best dancers. These balls were important because they were safe spaces for young LGBTQ people. Many of them were treated very badly in daily life. Some were even kicked out by their families. Balls and voguing let them be themselves. Word power.
Pose. Pose. Kelly makes the same pose in all her pictures. She makes her fingers look like a V. Kelly makes the same pose in all her pictures. She makes her fingers look like a V. Curve, curve. The road goes straight for about a kilometer and then curves to the right. The road goes straight for about a kilometer and then curves to the right. Magazine, magazine. Every month, Jamie buys travel magazines to read. She likes to learn about foreign places. Every month, Jamie buys travel magazines to read. She likes to learn about foreign places. Ball, ball. Cinderella will wear a fancy dress to the ball and dance all night. Cinderella will wear a fancy dress to the ball and dance all night.
认识字汇
Dancer, dancer.
Okay, so our article starts with a very famous saying in Vogue. It goes 1001, 2002, 3003. Now hold that pose for me. Okay, this is a super famous chant, like something you say over music that people always say in Vogue battles.
Wow.
Basically, that you have someone called an MC, like a rapper, kind of like in hip hop, and they rap over music. And when they say this, you have to stop dancing. So it's more like 1001, 2002, kind of like that to the music. So this is kind of telling us we're going to be learning about Vogue.
哦，蛮酷的耶！这个我都是新的学习哦。所以如果你们很熟悉 Vogue 这个舞蹈的话，你们就知道我们一开始的 1001, 1002 or 2002 or 3003，这个是一个非常经典的，就是他的 MC 主持人可能一开始会说的，然后说现在帮我维持那个姿势。Pose, OK， 相信大家都知道这个字吧？Pose 就是姿势、样子的意思。I have to say I'm bad at posing for pictures. Can you teach me some cool poses? No, I think Seb, 你真的很强。I think I have to ask you how to, pose for pictures. Sometimes I get really shy in front of like cameras. I don't know why. I'm pretty good at videos. Yeah, but not
you're very good at
pictures. 对，我真的影像我可以，可是照片我都会害羞欸。那我们通常会什么 strike a pose， 就是摆一个姿势这样的意思。所以 Jolene struck a pose and smiled for the camera. OK, Jolene 摆一个姿势，并且对着相机微笑。那我们来看一下课文的例句。Kelly makes the same pose in all her pictures.She makes her fingers look like a V. I don't like that. That's kind of
this one?
old-fashioned. 这个超老派的好不好？所以 Kelly 在她的相片当中摆出相同的 pose， 她把手指弄得像 V. Honestly, I have to say, a lot of people they take lots of selfies, and they do the same poses for all
they
selfies.
do like little love hearts.But
they look all the same. And I'm like, why bother posting all the same pictures, right? You know what I mean?
True. Or maybe I can teach you some poses later at the end.
Sure, please.
So I'm really glad that you mentioned the word pose because pose is very important for today's article, as we'll find out in a minute.I love, Laura, that you told us about the phrase strike a pose. As you said, that basically means to do a pose. But we can also turn pose into a verb. We can say pose for the camera or pose for me. That's something else they often say in Vogue. They say pose for me, and then you're supposed to do different shapes. So here's an example sentence would be Lauren posed for the camera by smiling and putting her hands in the shape of a heart.Which is kind of a weird pose, but, I couldn't think of a good sentence. Anyway, what surprises me about you, Laura, is you said you're not very photogenic, right? You said you don't feel good taking photos of yourself, or people taking photos of yourself. Photogenic means someone who, naturally goes into really good poses or feels very comfortable in front of a camera. So that surprises me because I thought that you're a very photogenic person.
It depends.
You always look good in pictures.
Really? It depends who's taking the pictures. I think Reese is probably more photogenic than I am. He does like really silly
Reese just
poses.
does this pose all the time.
Yeah, he does it so often. We're gonna tell Reese that. I hope he's watching us. Okay.
He will in 2 months. Okay.
Yeah. What about hold a pose? Because that's what the article says. Hold a pose. Yeah.
That's
It says
a good
now
question.
hold that pose.
Hold that pose. So when you hold a pose, you do a pose and you stay in that pose for a really long time. So you just don't move any of your body and you just stay like that. I'm holding a pose. I'm not moving
like
my body.
The kid in Home Alone, that pose.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's holding a pose. Anyway, back to the article. We've had that chant 1001, 2002. And the article says the music stops. A dancer is lying on the floor in a beautiful pose. Okay.
Oh my God.
I'll tell you more about that pose in a minute. How do we translate this sentence into Chinese?
Oh, that sounds beautiful already. 他说音乐停止，然后一位舞者就是 dancer， 我们常常在综艺节目不是有提到 dancer 吗？就是舞者，他躺在地上，然后用一个非常美丽的姿势在地板上。Dancer 当然就是跳舞的人，就是舞者啦。Wow, that sounds beautiful already.
Exactly, it does. So then the article goes and tells us a bit about this pose that they are doing. So we've been talking about posing with your face. This is talking about posing with your whole body. And we know that because the article says their right leg points into the air. So when you point at something, you signal something with your hands or feet. So if I say, look over there, then I'm pointing over there with my finger. Another example would be, don't point, it's rude. But here what's happening is the dancer has got their leg very straight and it's out in the air. And that means that they are pointing their feet. And this move is actually called a dip. It's the most famous dance move in voguing. And that's when you see people go on the floor with their arms out and their feet up. Some people call it a death drop, but that's actually the wrong name for it. You're supposed to call it a dip. Okay, so shall we? Oh, we need to translate this sentence into Chinese before we move on.
没错，其实这里我们看到，接着这个舞者这个 dancer， 他的右脚是踢向天空哦。然后刚刚就是 Seb 老师有补充，他说这样子的一个 move， 一个动作就是叫做 dip。Okay, yeah, cool.
Exactly. Okay, so they tell us more about this pose. They say their back curves and their head looks back. Okay, so their back is curved. Laura, you can tell us a bit about that in a second, but their head is looking back, and that means they're just bending their head back and looking behind them.
Wow, 所以他们背部是弯曲，然后并转头看向后方。刚刚 Seb 老师有很认真的去示范。不过这里我们先来看一下 curve 这个字哦。curve 在本课是当作动词来用，就是使弯曲啊，或者使成为什么曲线啊，有没有很美的曲线这样的意思？我举例来讲好了，像是 the road curves round to the right，这个道路转向右边，或者是我们嘴巴也可以形成一个曲线，就是 a smile curved her lips，就是她嘴角一弯，成为了一个 smile， 一个微笑。那我们来看一下课文的例句。The road goes straight for about a kilometer and then curves to the right. 这个例句是不是学我刚刚的例句呢？这条路大约有1公里是直的，然后就弯向右边。Okay, I can't wait to find out more about this dance called voguing, right? Voguing.
Well, I'm glad you said that because the next sentence is, this is voguing. Voguing is, or Vogue, is a famous dance from New York City's Black and Latino LGBTQ culture. Right, we've heard that word LGBTQ a few times at A+ English, haven't we? What does that mean again?
Okay, I will explain that in a minute. But first, voguing 或是 Vogue 其实都可以用来表示时尚舞风。I think I'm singing like Madonna's Vogue in my head right now. Vogue, Vogue, 对不对？好了，我要补充一下，这个舞蹈其实是由纽约市的非裔美国人，还有拉丁的 LGBTQ， 然后是在美国的纽约区，就是纽约的哈林区起源的。那 LGBTQ 我一定要来解释一下，好不好？其实 L 就是指 lesbian， 就是女同性恋者，或者是 gay 男同性恋者，还有双性恋者就是 bisexual， 还有跨性别者就是 transgender 的 T。那 Q 其实可以代表 queer 或者是 question， 就是对性别或者是性向感到就是比较不确定的这样子的一个类别。Yeah, and it's so important to actually accept all kinds of people in the world.
It is.
So important.
But we learned that it's not just about LGBTQ culture. It's about Black and Latino LGBTQ culture in New York. So that's why we have this very important phrase. And what we're talking about are people who are Black, 非裔, or Latino, 拉丁裔, right?
对。
So in the past, especially, Black and Latino people, LGBTQ people, were treated very badly, both because of their race, their 种族, but also because they were LGBTQ. So they had a very difficult time in the past in New York City. And so they created voguing at that time to help them find a safe space to be themselves and to make friends and be creative. And that's where Vogue came from, and it's why it's still very important now. So our next sentence tells us a bit about the history. It says, voguing started in the 1960s and 1970s. Dancers did poses from Vogue, 时尚 magazine to music.
Nice. So, you were going to say something?
Yes, no, I was just going to say it's very difficult for us to know exactly when voguing started. But around then, there were some people who were starting to do something like Vogue. And so we can say like maybe at that time.
Okay, I see. 所以 voguing 发基于1960跟1970年代，那舞者会摆出 Vogue， 也就是时尚杂志里面的 pose， 就是姿势，然后将它运用在音乐当中哦。OK， 我们首先来看一下杂志这个字吧。你们 You guys should know this word. Magazine. You guys, I hope you guys are reading our magazines. Do you guys like our A+ and For You magazines? 大家有没有喜欢看我们的杂志呢？我们有 A+， 还有 For You， 当然还有 ED 啦。I used to buy lots of fashion magazines when I was in high school. 我真的以前在高中的时候，我就会很3八，我都会买一大堆的那种时尚的杂志 ，because I want to learn how to mix and match， 就是学那个穿搭术，有没有？相信你们现在在看，你们国中生应该现在就很喜欢看一些 maybe Instagram or and learn how to dress up like from fashion bloggers. 但是杂志 fashion magazines are also very like useful if you want to learn how to dress up a bit. Okay, 我们来看一下
that's very true.
课文的例句。Every month, Jamie buys travel magazines to read. Oh, I love those too. She likes to learn about foreign places. Okay, Jamie 每个月都会买旅游杂志来阅读，她喜欢认识国外的地方。I love travel magazines as well.
Yeah, they can be very interesting. So back to voguing, they tell us a little bit more about the culture. So we learn that they even held balls to find the best dancers. Okay.
Nice. OK， 他们甚至还会举办舞会来找出最棒的舞者哦，好酷哦！那我们刚刚还看到 ，we also saw the word ball， OK， 这是舞会，在本课当中 I know ball 也有球的意思啊，可是在本课当中就是舞会的意思，它是一个名词。那通常我们举办舞会就会用 hold a ball， 举办舞会比较正式的用法。但是呢，我常常会担心 I don't know what to wear for the ball， 因为女生都会想说一定要穿得很漂亮，然后常常会不知道穿什么，我就会很紧张。
I say that sometimes, actually.
Really?
Yes.
I know, it's really hard to find, because you want to look impressive, right? So, and you will be taking lots of pictures at the ball, so you need to dress your best. 那我们看回课文的例句，要怎么用 ball 啊？
我们来看一下 word power 的例句。Cinderella will wear a fancy dress to the ball and dance all night. Cinderella 将会穿一件漂亮的洋装，可以去舞会整夜跳舞。
Okay, very cool. So balls are also very important to Vogue. In fact, Vogue is part of a bigger culture, which is called ballroom culture. So it's a whole thing. It's a lot that we can talk about here. I don't think we have enough time. But basically, balls in voguing are kind of like a party, but they're also kind of like a competition. You have a long runway, like I think you call it a pao dao, like where people have to walk down and show the clothes they're wearing or vogue and impress people with their dancing. And this is called having a ball. In fact, when you dance at a ball, we say that you walk a ball. So walk like zop zop. But we'd never use this outside of ballroom. This is only in Vogue culture that we say the phrase walk a ball. So people would walk balls to impress the judges and, so the judges could find the best voguers. Taipei actually has quite a few balls as well, but I mean at the moment because of COVID they're not happening, but sometimes they do. Sometimes they do. So moving on, the article says these balls were very important because they were safe spaces for young LGBTQ people. Many of them were treated very badly in daily life. Okay.
Yes, you were talking about that, right? Yeah, 刚刚其实有听到就是非裔的美国人或者是 Latino 拉丁裔的，他们其实呢，我们常常会看到他们在日常生活当中可能会被歧视的，所以呢，这些舞会对他们来讲就非常重要啦，因为他们给予这个 LGBTQ 族群安全的一个空间。而且很多这个其实蛮难过，他们许多人在日常生活中的处境其实是很糟糕的，就是他就是没有平等的对待。OK， 那这里我们提到的被动语态的用法 ，they were treated very badly. Be treated 就是被动语态。想要知道更多有关我们的 Magic Box， 我们当然要请教我们的 Magic Box 老师。
Magic Box。
萨瓦迪卡啊，我就是转学来的女生娜诺啊。班上女生呢一直在谣传，说什么我传赖给老师，拜托真是不要乱讲了。The message was sent by the teacher， 明明是我被传赖，好不好？讯息是被老师传的，不要搞错了啦。中文呢，我们除了主动的这个语态之外，当然也有被动了。比方说呢，我吃了蛋糕，我主动吃蛋糕，但是蛋糕怎么样呢？是被我给吃了。英文里面也是一样的哦。这个时候呢，我们就需要使用的是被动语态出来帮忙了。怎么造句呢？我们可以直接来看一下句子啦。蛋糕呢被我吃了 ，OK， 英文里面呢是一样的用法 ，OK， 桌上的蛋糕被吃掉，被谁吃了 ？The cake was eaten by me， OK， 蛋糕是被我给吃掉的 ，The cake was eaten by me。注意到呢，这边主词跟受词的位置调换了。因为呢，本来应该是我吃了蛋糕 ，I ate the cake， 但是在这边呢，我们这个两个主词受词调换了，蛋糕变成主词了，它被我给吃了。OK， 本来呢应该是 I ate the cake， 注意到呢这边这个 ate。 OK 是这个主动，是动词的过去式。那呢现在如果我们要改写成被动了，它呢就变成 The cake was eaten by me。 OK 它呢就变成了 was eaten。 OK 所以我们知道了被动语态的形成方法怎么形成呢？就是要加上 be 动词再加上过去分词。 OK 注意就是这么简单了。 The cake was eaten by me。 OK 被我给吃了，这样子就形成了被动语态了。那如果呢我们要表示被谁 OK 做这个动作的人是谁，被谁给吃了 OK 注意到呢我们就在后面加上介系词 by，再加上这个做动作的人事物就可以了。比方说呢刚刚讲被我吃了， The cake was eaten by me。 OK 这样子呢就形成了整句，就是我们的被动语态的用法了。那什么状况之下可以使用被动语态呢？首先啊，当我们说话要强调的是动作的接受者 OK 比方说 The cake has been eaten OK 在这边呢要强调的是这个蛋糕已经被吃了，所以我们要强调的是蛋糕本体了。这个蛋糕我很期待很久的蛋糕竟然被别人吃了，所以呢在这边我在意的呢是这个蛋糕被吃的这件事情，我不是很在意是谁吃的这个状况了。所以句子要强调的是这个动作的接受者，而不是动作的施作者。另外呢被动语态呢也很常用在这个正式的书信和文件里面了 OK 另外呢口语里面有时候也会使用被动语态，因为被动语态的语气呢听起来比较婉转，比较客气，比较没有这么直接了。比方说呢今天我们这个小组活动大家要分组做报告，团队里面呢有人犯错了，我怎么说呢？我说A mistake was made。 A mistake was made OK 有一个错误发生了，有一个错误被制造出来了。在这边呢我们这样说听起来就是强调说有一个错误发生了，但是呢在这边我没有要责怪任何人因为我强调的是发生的这个错误，而不是强调是谁让这个错误给发生了 OK 所以呢这个呢就是我们被动语态很常使用的时机，用在日常生活中的对话，它听起来呢是比较婉转，比较客气的。下次呢你也可以试试看咯。
Okay, so we're back and let's look at our next sentence. So remember, we said that sometimes people were treated very badly in their daily lives. Some of these are Black and Latino LGBTQ people. And the article says some were even kicked out by their families. Balls and voguing let them be themselves. Right, it was sometimes very hard for people to find a job in New York City because they were Black or Latino, or because they were LGBTQ, or because they were both of those things. And so they often felt alone, and this helped them find friends, and kind of find more confidence in themselves. So it was very helpful to them. It wasn't just a party.
That's so important, these balls, right? 所以有一些人甚至被他们的家人赶出家门啦，所以这些舞会啦，还有 voguing 就可以让他们做自己。It's so important to have a space where you can just be yourself, right? Okay, 所以呢，这里我们有提到了，就是反身代名词，在英文当中呢，我们其实会用，就是要接受一个同样的动作，当主词。就是或是受词跟主词是一样的时候，要表示这个要表达自己的时候，就要用反身代名词。我这样讲可能有点复杂啦，但是如果我说自言自语，就是 I talk to myself， 所以动作跟主词都是一样的时候，就要用反身代名词。常常记得单数的反身代名词就像是 myself, yourself, himself, herself, itself， 那复数就像是ourselves, yourselves, or themselves. OK， 那有时候我在路上会发现这件事情，像是有的人好像会自言自语 Is he talking to himself? Or is he talking to someone on the phone using AirPods? Yeah, sometimes I kind of freak out. I'm like, this person, talking to,
Crazy.
Who's he talking to? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so wow. We learned so much in today's article.
We did. That's.
I forgot to mention kick out, the phrase. 就是指撵走或者是赶走 which is really sad if you got kicked out by your families.
Yes. I mean, this doesn't happen to everybody who dances in Vogue, of course, but it did help people in the very beginning when they were starting out, and still does today for some people. Anyway, unfortunately, this is all the time we have for talking about voguing in day one. There's so much we can talk about here, but let's go to our review time, and then tomorrow we will continue with this article.
Review time.
Okay, so we're back with our review time, and I think, Laura, you've got a bit of a challenge in store for us, haven't you?
Oh, that's right. Fill in the blanks.
Okay, so we remember how that goes. We get a sentence, there's a word missing, and I think it's one of the words from our word power words today, aren't they? Okay.
So who's going to ask the question?
Okay, I'll give you one, you give me one.
Okay, that's
Okay,
good.
I think that this one is very good for you. Jane loves looking at the models that model her in her favorite fashion something. In her favorite fashion something.
Fashion. 我刚刚是不是有提到我小时候或是高中的时候很喜欢买 fashion magazine?
Exactly.
Yay!
So I think Jane sounds a lot like you, actually.
I know, right? Okay. And I have a sentence for you. I think it's not so easy. The road blank around the tall mountain.
Okay, this doesn't sound like anything to do with voguing. I'm going to say it's the road curved around the tall mountain. It didn't pose around the tall mountain because roads can't pose. Okay, well, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for these two. We have two more sentences, and we're not going to give you the answers. You guys can do this yourself. The first one is, Tyra held a
blank
for the cameraman, and he took her picture. And the last one is, Corey walked a
blank
and won first prize. Okay, so you guys can try and figure that out. We will see you tomorrow when we're going to be telling you more about voguing today. Okay, so we will see you then. For A+ English, I'm Seb.
And I'm Laura.
And we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Vogue. More than a magazine, more than a dance. Warm-up question. Do you dance? What do you like about dancing?
1001, 2002, 3003. Now hold that pose for me. The music stops. A dancer is lying on the floor in a beautiful pose. Their right leg points into the air. Their back curves and their head looks back. This is voguing. Vogue is a famous dance from New York City's Black and Latino LGBTQ culture. Voguing started in the 1960s and 1970s. Dancers did poses from Vogue magazine to music. They even held balls to find the best dancers. These balls were important because they were safe spaces for young LGBTQ people. Many of them were treated very badly in daily life. Some were even kicked out by their families. Balls and voguing let them be themselves. Word power.
Pose. Pose. Kelly makes the same pose in all her pictures. She makes her fingers look like a V. Kelly makes the same pose in all her pictures. She makes her fingers look like a V. Curve. Curve. The road goes straight for about a kilometer. and then curves to the right. The road goes straight for about a kilometer and then curves to the right. Magazine, magazine. Every month, Jamie buys travel magazines to read. She likes to learn about foreign places. Every month, Jamie buys travel magazines to read. She likes to learn about foreign places. Ball, ball. Cinderella will wear a fancy dress to the ball and dance all night. Cinderella will wear a fancy dress to the ball and dance all night.
认识字汇
Dancer, dancer.